I play baseball under its blue skies as an American. I travel this land and follow her roads wherever I can. From sea to shining sea, I've seen a lot, and none of it will be forgot. And when my country called, I gave my all as an American. I was born into freedom in a wonderful land of mountains and plains, rivers and lakes. Forever American is what I am. A past as rich as any can be. My father's worked hard to give this to me. I love this place I come from. To live another way I cannot foresee. As an American, I eat apple pie, play baseball under its blue skies. As an American, I travel this land and follow her roads wherever I can. From sea to shining sea, I've seen a lot, and none of it will be forgot. And when my country called, I gave my all as an American. As an American, I've been to the peaks of majestic mountains where the air is sweet. I've watched the eagle as the
These are my observations, and this is my analysis.
Hello. Welcome to Real News Live.
There have been two waves of injury.
Everything happening out there, and trying to follow everything that's happening. It's getting more crazy by the day as we, of course, go through ridiculous events like, of course, the Democrats blaming Republicans for the government budget not passing. Now, of course, Republicans push the budget with some stipulations. Ukraine spending is the big key here. And of course, we have Republican senators or Republican House members coming out and saying this was going to be a big problem, but nobody wanted to listen. We're going to listen in on what a Republican senator had to, or House member had to say, of course, about the spending in Ukraine, and of course, this ridiculous amount of money that we're spending, because it is at this point. America's budget is out of control. So let's listen to his press conference.
Senator, could you come to the camera?
Okay, very briefly.
Thank
Yes.
See what they had to say.
Yes.
Not to interrupt just the
No, go ahead.
conversation you were just having, but did anything that you learned in there change your perspective on Ukraine aid? You've
No.
been pretty
No.
outspoken.
No, it did not. I listen. What I heard in there. Let me just choose my words carefully, given it was a classified briefing. But I'll just say this. I mean, if there's a path, if there's some path to victory in Ukraine, I didn't hear it today. And I also heard that there was going to be no end to the funding requests. So I think this latest request for, what is it, $24 billion? That is not the end. They made that very clear. It's not close to the end. So I would just say what we're basically told is buckle up and get out your checkbook. Of course, it's not our checkbook. And can I just say, by the way, I'm sick and tired of hearing all of these people in that room for the administration applaud Congress for being so generous. This isn't our money. For heaven's sake. It's not we're not being generous. It's the American people's money, and they spent $115 billion of it, and so far they have basically nothing to show for it. And they're going to ask for a heck of a lot more. $24 billion is not the end, not even close.
So what
to the
happens
end.
if Congress doesn't help them with what they need?
Well, hopefully, number one, our European allies will actually do something, and they just confirmed to us again that we have spent more than all of Europe combined.
These are my observations, and this is my analysis.
That's right. More than all of Americans combined is what we spent. And this is getting ridiculous because this is the American people's money. And we're watching this happen again and again and again. it's unfolding at the point that we no longer have the ability to control our own assets. As an American citizen, you can no longer vote and make your vote be heard that you don't want your spending money going to a foreign nation. It's not your decision anymore. The government has taken that out of our hands. Of course, this is getting ridiculous. As we're watching what's happening, the government, of course, passed the spending bill, a temporary spending bill, bipartisanly, but of course, it does not offer any kind of funds or new aid to Ukraine, which is good. It's a good start. The problem is, for the actual bill to pass for funding, of course, the new House bill passed a short-term spending deal. But when the new budget passes, they want to, of course, include $20 billion of U.S. funds. Yeah, some of the impeachment inquiries, I don't know if you guys know. Yes, they did pass a temporary version to shut down. It just passed about 6 minutes ago. Actually, it passed 4 minutes ago. But yeah, the House and the Senate have both passed a deal, which of course provide government funding through the 19th or 17th of November. Doesn't have any aid for Ukraine, which we should not be spending more money in Ukraine. We spent more money than any other country in a foreign nation that is not an ally. Ukraine is not an ally by any means, and we know this. We've seen what's unfolding there. We know that the Nazi party is still in force there. It's ridiculous, though. It is absolutely ridiculous. And of course, now we're finding out more information, of course, of this fraud case that Trump just got charged with in D.C. all stem from IRS tax returns being released publicly or leaked to the public by an IRS contractor. The IRS contractor has been now charged with leaking the tax returns of information of Trump and other wealthy people. It's ridiculous. Charles Edward Longjohn, 38 of D.C., is accused of stealing tax returns and information and giving it to two news outlets between 2018 and 2020. The Justice Department said in a statement. So they are charging him. I mean, they published numerous articles of tax information, some dating back more than 15 years. I mean, this information was used for President Trump's New York tax case. The fraud case, of course, they just try to push on him. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. It's news outlets, of course, are not named in the charging documents, but they knew this information was illegally obtained. They talked about us releasing information that we had legally obtained, but yet this was okay. Since when? It's just ridiculous. And during, of course, the votes today, Democrat Jamal Bowman decides to pull the fire alarm. That's right. A Democratic House member decided to pull the fire alarm during the vote on one of the budgets today in the Congressional Office Building. This is ridiculous. If you did this on an airplane or if you did this in a government building, you would be going to prison. Now you have a United States House member doing this, pulling the off. It's basically, he tried to stop the stopgap bill vote from happening. He intended to avert the stopgap in shutting down the government today. He should be charged with high crimes. Of course, the congressman said he did not realize it would trigger the building alarm. He was just rushing to make an urgent vote, according to him, by going through a fire door. First of all, it says that it would trigger the alarm. And of course, he's telling reporters he didn't know it would trigger the alarm. It's ridiculous. This is an outrageous and criminally. This not potentially criminal. This is criminal. Any member of Congress that would think this is appropriate to pull a fire alarm to try to delay Congress from doing business is shameful. It's on becoming. It's a strong consideration of resignation from Congress. He should not be there. This is a serious incident, and it needs to be heavily investigated. This is the same James Bowman that wants to impeach Clarence Thomas, saying that he, of course, said Clarence Thomas should not go without punishment. This is embarrassing for a nation, as all nations are looking at us. Of course, saying the same thing. We have serious problems here. The serious problems aren't going away anywhere. Meanwhile, more data is coming out of COVID-19 vaccines. I don't know if you guys heard this data, but we are going to talk about it. I'm going to play another video here in a second. But new study reveals that COVID-19 vaccine was found in patients who passed away within 30 days of receiving the vaccine in the U.S. U.S. researchers conducted 25 autopsies on 25 individuals, 20 of whom the vaccine was still present in tissue samples from the heart. And of course, 3 of those patients that died right after receiving Pfizer's vaccine tested positive for ribonucleic acid inside the heart. This is crazy. This information's been coming out, and nobody wants to talk about what's happening. I'm not taking calls right now. I'm not taking calls, because I got to be careful with what I say about this. But this is a serious issue. And you have speakers like this here at the UN that wanted to make this stuff information public, and they did not want to let him. Let's listen to what he has to say there. Not hearing him.
On the frail and the elderly. And then the second wave of injury now has been the COVID-19 vaccines. The role of the WHO appears to be adverse in both of these. The role of the WHO appears to be operating within a biopharmaceutical complex, a syndicate, a complicated syndicate that has formed over time. It includes the WHO, the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, the Gates Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, the Wellcome Trust, Gavi, CEPI, the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness and Innovation that Gates Foundation and the WEF formed largely. The Department of State in the United States, the National Institutes of Health, the CDC, the FDA, the MHRA in the UK, the TGA in Australia, SAFRA in South Africa, the EMA here in Europe. This grouping of non-governmental organizations with governmental public health agencies is operating as a unit. They're carefully coordinated, and the impact has been adverse. At the outset of the pandemic, there was an investigation by the WHO on the origins of SARS-CoV-2. That's when the beginning of the cover-up began. Rear Admiral Brett Giroir in the United States nominated 3 independent scientists to go to Wuhan and figure out what was going on. We knew at that time, and this has all come out in congressional hearings, that Anthony Fauci, Francis Collins, Jeremy Farrar, who was at the Wellcome Trust, who's now the chief scientist at the WHO, Christian Anderson at Scripps, Edwin Holmes in Sydney, Peter Daszak at the EcoHealth Alliance. They all conspired in January of 2020 to cover up what they knew, that the virus was engineered in a joint U.S.-Chinese collaboration in the lab in Wuhan, China.
So they knew this information. They did not share it with the public. They tried to hide it from the public, and now, of course, now it's coming out in Europe. And there's no longer, you can't hide something, of course, now. Too much has come out. Too much is happening, with COVID vaccines. More studies are coming out now. They're showing more research and further problems with the vaccines. And I'm not saying this is a widespread or a mass problem. Not everybody has this reaction, but it is a reaction that, of course, should have been disclosed to the public. Saying it doesn't exist is just ridiculous at this point. I mean, 22% of patients who died within 30 days of the vaccine, and their hearts had serious injuries to them, from myocarditis to other issues. 22% of patients who died within 30 days of the vaccine. We don't even know the true number, because the ridiculous part is they don't want to isolate the deaths with people vaccinated without. These numbers are coming from, of course, medical records that were obtained. And it's sad. There's a sad state of events. Now the Navy, this is just not another ridiculous joke. The military is now going to start randomly testing special forces for steroids and other performance-enhancing drugs. That's right. So, in a groundbreaking effort to stop military leaders that have long resisted. This is a joke because, first of all, the government provides a lot of steroids or enhancement drugs. Can't say it's steroids because they are performance enhancement drugs. And we know this. It's happened for a long time. But now all of a sudden they're going to test for these drugs within SEAL units and other high valued assets that we have to, of course, keep pushing. This is sad. This is sad. Just a joke at this point. The stuff that's unfolding here in the United States, now we're going to test our Navy SEALs and Air Force or Army Delta Force and Green Berets and Ranger regiments for drugs that we prescribe to them so we can kick them out of the military. Just a joke at this point. Miley, of course, now I wonder everybody thinks this. Miley, of course, calling Trump a wannabe dictator in an exit speech. Just disgusting at this point. And the reason Miley did this, of course, because treason should be punished by death. And that's what Trump said. As former President Trump did make a swipe at Miley, saying that he would have him executed if he was found guilty of treason. Which I don't understand why anybody thinks that's a wrong thing to say. That's what the article of Constitution says. I mean, the acts committed by Miley by communicating with China surrounding the January 6th riot was definitely treasonous. He went behind the president, sitting president's back, and communicated with a foreign enemy. There's no question about that. He testified to Congress in the fall of 2021 that he made now phone calls to his Chinese counterpart in the days after the riots, assuring them that the U.S. would not attack China. This is a joke. And he wonders why Trump's calling it treason. It is. Miley said he never made any calls to China that can be considered treasonous, but directly conveying U.S. information to an enemy of the state against the president's wishes or without the president's knowledge is that of treason. It's a joke. Watching all this unfold is ridiculous at this point. And it's not getting any better here in the United States. Now we have, of course, the auto unions, auto workers unions, targeting more factories of Ford and GM plants as the union expands its strike. Because no call for the end of the strike has happened. Another 7,000 workers of Ford and GM of the two facilities will leave their posts as of yesterday. The number of striking workers to almost 25,000 people, or 17% of the roughly 146,000 members of the United Auto Workers Union. All this while the Biden administration plans to start giving foreign aid for deportations. We can't afford to house them here. We can't afford to feed them here. So now we're going to send them. We're going to send money with them back to foreign countries as Biden administration plans to direct millions of dollars of foreign aid to help deport migrants of course, and pay for relief and an unprecedented pilot program. Oh my goodness, this is a joke. Where's the money for American people? Trump going to picket line was awesome. I don't know if you watched the speech we had on the other night before you were doing your trivia night. Wednesday night, of course, when we had Trump's speech on, he was there, and they loved him. They were glad he was there. Of course, his $10 million spending in foreign aid with this pilot program for Panama deportees and more migrants that do not qualify for protections, they're going to get money to go back to their home country. Great American shit show. Coming to a town here, it's already here. Of course, lots of information coming out about Biden as the investigation and overwhelming evidence involving Hunter Biden's business dealings and Biden involved in those business dealings. You got to remember, in order for him to be found guilty and impeached, he does not have to receive funds. Joe Biden never had to receive funds. And that's something the leftists keep focused on, that Joe Biden never profited. If he did something that allowed his family to directly profit with his weight of public office, he is guilty of selling his access to himself. And that's what he did. There's overwhelming evidence now that Joe Biden was involved with all the shady business schemes. That's a threat to our nation's security. We need to continue going and moving forward and following the money. I mean, as McCarthy, of course, launched this impeachment inquiry into Biden after Republicans alleged the president's son profited from foreign business dealings, which he did. I mean, Biden took $20 million from foreign nations, at least that we know of, from 5 different countries. For nothing. That money was for absolutely nothing. There's at least 20 shell companies that have been started to try to hide this money as it was transferred into the nation. Of course, there's been subpoenas now signed for Biden's personal bank accounts. Unlike Hunter Biden, the president has flown under the radar because, quite frankly, he didn't leave a laptop laying around. He didn't leave the evidence laying right in front of people. He didn't give that information away. We're watching witnesses testify during the hearing, so they're not sure if there's enough evidence yet to impeach Biden. Of course, more information is coming out about that, and it's not looking good. Watching everything unfold, this is crazy. It is crazy. Yeah, we have looting going on in multiple cities around the country. Videos showing up online of people breaking into malls in a pack mentality, so they're not doing it individually. This is organized crime that's happening in America. Nobody's doing anything about it. Nobody's even raising an eyebrow. A sad state of affairs are unfolding in America, and nobody is doing anything about it. And it's getting worse day by day. It's sad. Ukraine's not winning the war. We're sending massive amounts of money there. For what? I think cover up. I think Ukraine has more information about Biden, Joe Biden himself, being directly involved in these transactions. And that's the reason we're funding Ukraine. That's my belief. I don't know if it's factual, but I believe it. And there's enough evidence showing that he definitely had ties in Ukraine. Of course, he admitted getting the prosecutor fired just because he wanted him fired for his son. If that's not proof that he was involved in his son's business dealings, I don't know what is. But of course, that's just a minor issue. Depending on what could come out, there could be very, truly great issues to unfold. Even China and other nations calling the U.S. a true empire of lies. It's pretty sad when you have foreign nations calling you a nation of lies. It's sad. Oh. Be ready, though. This clown shows ain't going to get no better. I have a feeling as we dig deeper, and of course, the Senate here or the House keeps going deeper into these informational and requests of subpoenas that they're getting back slowly and surely, that we're going to find out a lot of information that we didn't even know we needed to know. And that's the problem. Yeah. Well, just look at what Canada did. Canada sat there and had a freaking Nazi, one of Adolf Hitler's party members, in Parliament in Canada, and congratulated him for defending Ukraine against Russia in World War II. How stupid can you be? How stupid can you be? Literally. Who fought Russia in World War II? I bet you, and anybody can answer this. Who fought Russia in World War II? But Canada's parliament couldn't figure that out? Instead, they're congratulating a direct Nazi directly tied to concentration camps and gassing of citizens? This is just a sick joke at this point. The wokeness and woke nation has infected not just our country, but countries around the globe so deeply that they don't even know the truth. It is sickening. Of course, they're going after the journalists that exposed that information, said, hey, first guy that called it out, he's now in jail in Europe. Sickening. Oh, God bless you guys. God bless America. Just be prepared. That's all you can do right now. Be prepared. The U.S., of course, watches our enemies grow in allies. Literally. They have more allies than us now. This is all getting unfolded. We're discovering how deep the corruption goes within our own government, and information that was lied to us by our own government. And knowing that they want to spend over another $100 billion in Ukraine, it's just sad. So be prepared. We'll be back Monday night, of course, with the news live. I'm sorry I didn't make it live last night. My anxiety was through the roof. But till then, be safe. Get with your neighbors. Prepare. Don't know what's going to happen next, but it doesn't look good. Good night.